real world. The famous German mathematician David Hilbert, he said that the infinite is nowhere to be found in reality. It neither exists in nature nor provides a legitimate basis for rational thought. The role that remains for the infinite to play is solely that of an idea. But historical events or past events are real things. They're not just ideas. So we can't have an infinite set of past events because, as Hilbert said, infinity can't reasonably exist or comprehensively exist in the real world. If we want to have today, which is Tuesday the 19th of October, and we haven't got a choice on it because we do have today, then whether we like it or not, an infinite series of past events is not a rationally acceptable explanation. So, we're looking at a cosmic beginning. Alexander Vilenkin puts the point very eloquently. He says, "It is said that an argument is what convinces the reasonable man, and the proof is what convinces even an unreasonable man. With the proof now in place, cosmologists can no longer hide behind the possibility of a past eternal universe. There is no escape. They have to face the problem of a cosmic beginning." Now, I would argue that this is supported by scientific evidence. Supported by it. Scientific evidence isn't necessary, but it's supported by it. It's not just a philosophical discussion. And we've got some, some scientists, very famous scientists, will talk about the Big Bang Theory. J. Richard, David Strum and Beatrice Tinsley, for example, if I'm paraphrasing what they said about the Big Bang, they said that the universe began from a state of infinite density about X billion years ago. Space and time were created in that event, and so was all matter. But what does infinite density actually mean? It's actually a cover-up phrase for nothing. So we have to believe that the universe came out from nothing. Fred Hoyle states that the universe at a point in the past was shrunk down to nothing at all. Anthony Kenny, professor at Oxford University, do you know him? You do, excellent. Anthony Kenny, professor at Oxford University, says, "A proponent of the Big Bang Theory, at least if he's an atheist, must believe that the universe came out of nothing by nothing." Well, brothers, sisters and friends, in the words of another speaker in this area, Hamza Tortsis, and he says it much better than me, out of nothing, nothing comes. And even atheists recognise this. David Hume said, "I have never asserted the absurd proposition as that anything might arise without a cause." Now, after Eddington said something similar, "The beginning of the universe seems to present insuperable difficulties unless we agree to look at it as frankly supernatural." Do we really need Eddington and Hume to tell us this? That this is absurd, that nothing comes from nothing? I propose that we don't actually need these quotes to make our own conclusions. So, there is a cause for the universe based on philosophical, logical and rational evidence and supported by some science. So what's the nature of the cause? Well, it's not a mechanical cause, because if it was a mechanical cause, then the effect must exist with the cause. The cause is, the effect here is the universe, but we've already proven the universe can't exist forever. So it can't be mechanical because the effect cannot coexist with the cause. So it means that the cause must have decided at some point to create the universe. And we're saying this cause caused time and the whole universe. So we know that given that the universe is finite and this cause decided to create the universe or bring it into existence, it indicates that this cause has personality and a will. This being is not subject to time because we know it created time. And this cause must be uncaused, because if we go for what caused the cause, and what caused the cause that caused the cause, and what caused the cause that caused the cause that caused the cause, we have an infinite regression again, and we firmly shut the door on the usage of the infinite regression as an escape for the atheist argument. So we have concluded the traditional view on God that a transcendental, immaterial, uncaused, eternal being exists, and I'll summarise it to make it easy for our opponents. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, as we've just substantiated. Therefore, the universe has a cause. I've only got probably 1 minute left, and I had a whole bunch of discussion on counter-arguments. The central counter-argument that you see used, it's not really a counter-argument, it's a strategy. The central strategy that we see used is the strategy of evasion. Evasion by mockery. Evasion by, I'll talk about that later. Yeah, there is some way of talking about first cause without a creator, but I'll talk about that later. And you've seen evidence of that already in the professor's talk, with respect. Evasion of all types. Evasion by mockery. Evasion by talking about the problem of evil. time up. And we'll talk about the problem movement in the Q&A, hopefully. Thank you.
For his presentation, I'm a bit scared about what's going to happen next, but we'll just take a 10-second break. If I can ask everyone to move in again, please, because I know there's people standing at the back. And the people on the side as well, please, if you could shift down for me. Firstly, someone's lost their wallet, so if this is yours, just here. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the cross-examination section. What's going to happen is we're going to have the atheist side come up and ask one question directly to the theist speakers. They'll then have 2 minutes to respond, and I will allow a bit of back and forth, but please try and respect each other. So if you'd like to.
I won't complain about the calumny that has been vested on our side by the last speaker. I do not need to mock his presentation. Okay, I have one question. I'll ask Hassan. You said that science cannot deal with intangibles. That, of course, is utter nonsense. You made a list of intangibles, and among those was the word love. Now, are you denying that science, through physiology, through psychology, cannot investigate the nature of love?
Thank you to the professor. Science can investigate the brain. It can investigate tangibles. It can investigate neurotransmitters, which are the special chemicals that carry out many important functions. They transfer messages throughout the structures of the brain's nerve cells. The nerve cells, called neurons, are organized to control specialized activities. You could have somewhere between 10 and 100 billion neurons within your brains. Whenever you do anything, whenever you react, feel emotion, think, the neurons are transmitting messages in the form of electrical impulses from one cell to another. These travel at an amazing rate of speed.
Get to the point.
And what you'll find is that science can do that. It can measure firing of synapses. But can it measure your personal experience of love?
Yes, it's the answer.
Can it measure your... And this discussion actually echoes a scientific discussion by Harold Wolff, who said that human beings have a similar pain threshold. But of course, a scientific method cannot discuss your personal experience of pain.
That's nonsense.
Then I'll give the professor a chance to speak.
Yeah, the whole point about science is... Sorry, yeah. Science renders questions tangible. It makes them concrete. It doesn't just talk about what the abstract idea is. It identifies precisely questions that should be answered. If someone asserts that love cannot be investigated, then the scientist comes along and says, what are the manifestations of love? Are they physiological? Are they psychological? Whatever.
Okay, I'll allow Hassan 30 seconds and then...
And I'm discussing the experience, the intangible element of it. Science can clearly deal with the tangible. That's the whole point. That's why science is so important for civilization.
But are you saying that
But
love is
30
outside?
seconds means 30 seconds. But I do want to say that this has nothing to do with whether science is good or bad. It's about whether we can measure whether somebody made something when they're not there to test. Science cannot test him. Science cannot test it. Science cannot test her. Science cannot test intangibles. And there's a Nobel Prize waiting for you if you can.
Okay, thanks, Hassan. If you'd like to... I know you guys like clapping, but it does take up a bit of time, so if you can just leave.
Hassan, I mean, if you think that the mind and the soul or happiness or love are not things which are properties of the brain and which cannot be understood by science by looking at the brain, can I suggest you just pop down to the medical department, have yourself lobotomized and see if you still have a soul or a mind? I suggest you might find that it's gone. I mean, the fact is, if you can't find something by looking at the brain, which you're suggesting is supposedly separate from it, how do you know it's there? I don't see it. Someone said something, and I'll speak to you in a second. But my question is this. You make the point that it's apparently illogical to say that something can come out of nothing, but... No, sorry, your colleague. Although you sounded bizarre, but still. The thing is, presumably, in fact, necessarily, the God that you're proposing existed on his own before there was anything else, and created the universe. So, it seems you're suggesting that although something can't come out of nothing, something can be created out of nothing.
He's still got another 30 seconds.
Yes. Can you please explain to me why that seems to be the case? Because as far as I'm concerned, if something can't come out of nothing, why can someone make it out of nothing? I don't see how attaching an agent there.
I think, Alex, we need to pay attention to the actual argumentation. And remember what I said about evasion. I put together a very simple argument. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist, as I've substantiated. Therefore, the universe has a cause. Whatever begins to exist has a cause. My question is for the professor. In terms of teapots floating around the planet, I apologise if I misquote you. We're not talking about, when we put together the explanation of why the universe exists, it's not the same as teapots flying around the Earth, because unlike teapots flying around the Earth, the universe does actually exist and does require an explanation. So what is the atheist, or your version of the atheist explanation for the universe? You did allude to a way that you could talk about a first cause without a cause. Could you possibly elaborate on that?
Well, yes. I'm not sure this is the place actually to do it. I'm going to slightly distort the question, but I'm prepared to come back to it. To ask what is actually here anyway. Are you prepared for me to consider that initially? I mean, what did a creator actually have to make on the day of creation? And look at various aspects, attributes of